Hey guys, welcome back. Honestly, I'm really glad you're here tonight. I know weeks can get heavy, days blur together, and sometimes you just need something quiet in the background. So before we start, do me a small favor. If you need to, pause this for a second. Grab a drink, water, tea, whatever feels right. Maybe pull a blanket over your shoulders, get comfortable, and just settle in. Tonight's video is a little different. This is a compilation of deep Reddit confessions. Some are heavy, some are unexpectedly wholesome, and some might hit a little closer to home than you expect. These are the kinds of stories that stay with you, not because they're loud or dramatic, but because they feel real. I came across these confessions over the past few days, and I couldn't stop thinking about them. Each one carries its own weight. Different lives, different experiences, but somehow they all share that same quiet honesty. The kind that makes you stop and think, yeah, I've felt something like that too. If you're listening while you're winding down for the night or maybe trying to fall asleep, this is perfect for that. There's no rush here. The stories are long, calm, and read slowly. Meant to be listened to, not rushed through. You don't have to focus on every word. Just let the voice fade in and out if you need it to. So if you're settled in now, let's get into it. Take a deep breath, close your eyes if you want, and just let these stories play. I'll take care of the rest. Okay, here we go. The guy who wrote this, let's just call him Alex. He starts off by saying, I never thought I'd be the type of person to have a secret like this. You know, you watch movies, you read books, and you think big dramatic family secrets are things that happen to other people. People with exciting lives. Not me. I'm an accountant. I drive a Honda. I have a golden retriever named Buster. My life is boring by design, or at least I thought it was. It's been 6 months since my dad passed away. A heart attack. Quick, painless, or so the doctors told us. My mom, she's a wreck. They were married for 42 years. They were that couple, you know? The ones who still held hands in the grocery store. The ones who had their own little language. I moved back home temporarily to help her sort through the house. And that's where this nightmare starts. See, my dad was a collector. That's the polite word for it. He wasn't a full-blown hoarder like you see on TV where there are dead cats under piles of trash, but he kept things. Everything. Every newspaper from a significant date, every receipt, boxes of old electronics he swore he'd fix. The garage was his domain. The bunker, we used to joke. Mom never went in there. She hated the dust. So, 2 weeks after the funeral, I'm standing in the garage. It's freezing. It's mid-November, and the insulation in there is practically non-existent. I'm staring at a wall of cardboard boxes stacked floor to ceiling, labeled with years, 1994, 1998, 2005. I just felt exhausted. You know that bone-deep tiredness where even lifting your arms feels like a workout? That was me. I just wanted to toss it all in a dumpster and be done with it. But Mom, she was adamant. Check everything, Alex. There might be photos. There might be keepsakes. So I started digging. The first few days were exactly what you'd expect. Old tax returns, broken tools, manuals for VCRs we threw out in the 90s. But then, about 4 days in, I found the safe. It wasn't a big safe, just a small, fireproof box tucked behind a stack of National Geographic magazines from the 80s. I knew we had a safe in the house, in the master bedroom closet, where Mom kept her jewelry and their birth certificates. But I didn't know about this one. I shook it. It was heavy. Something metal clunked inside. I remember sitting there on the cold concrete floor, just staring at it. I should have just asked Mom for the combination, right? But something stopped me. A weird gut feeling. Like when you're driving and you suddenly feel like you need to change lanes, and you don't know why. I tried the usual numbers, my birthday, Mom's birthday, their anniversary. Nothing. Then I tried the date they bought the house. Click. The lid popped open. Inside there wasn't gold, there wasn't a stash of cash. There was just a single, thick leather notebook and a stack of letters held together by a rubber band that was so old it had calcified and snapped as soon as I touched it. I opened the notebook first. It was Dad's handwriting, but it wasn't normal. My dad was a calm guy, steady. His handwriting was usually neat block letters. This was scrawled, frantic, different pens, different pressures. The first entry was dated 20 years ago, the year I started college. It read, "I don't know how to tell her. I can't tell her. If she knows, it'll kill her. I have to fix this myself." My stomach dropped. I mean, literally dropped. I sat there reading, and the cold of the garage just disappeared. I was sweating. I kept reading, page after page, and slowly, the picture of the man I thought I knew, it just dissolved. You have to understand. My dad was the provider. He was the rock. He ran a small consultancy firm. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Vacations to the lake every summer. New cars every 5 years. He paid for my college in full. No loans. I remember him handing me the check for my final semester, smiling, patting me on the back, saying, "Start your life debt-free, son. It's the best gift I can give you." I'm reading this diary and I realize none of that money was ours. None of it. The consultancy firm, it had gone under in the late 90s. He never told us. He kept going to work every day. He rented a small office space just to keep up appearances and to pay for our life, to pay for the groceries, the mortgage, my tuition. He was borrowing. And I don't mean bank loans. I mean bad loans. He was moving money around in a way that, as an accountant, made me want to vomit. He was stealing from clients before the business fully collapsed. Then he was borrowing from private lenders, loan sharks, essentially, to pay back the clients so he wouldn't get caught. Then he was taking out credit cards in my mom's name, maxing them out, and hiding the statements. He had a second mortgage on the house that Mom didn't know about. He forged her signature. He stole my mother's heirloom and let her believe she was careless enough to lose it just to buy me a Honda Civic. I felt sick, physically sick. I had to put the book down and breathe. I looked around the garage at all this junk and suddenly it made sense. The hoarding, the refusal to throw anything away. He was terrified of letting anyone see the cracks. If he kept the garage full, no one would come in here. No one would find the papers. But it gets worse. I picked up the stack of letters. They weren't letters he wrote. They were letters sent to him. Notices, legal threats. But the worst ones were from a woman. Let's call her Sarah. I didn't recognize the name at first, but then I read the content. "I know you're married, David. I don't want to ruin your life, but he needs braces. He needs clothes. Please, just send what you can. I have a brother. I have a half-brother. I'm 32. Based on the dates, this kid, Sarah's kid, is 25. My dad had an affair, a long one, and he had a whole other child. And while he was drowning in debt trying to keep up the perfect image for me and Mom, he was completely ignoring this other kid, or sending scraps when he could. There was a letter from the kid himself. It was dated 3 years ago. It was short, angry. I don't want your money. I don't want to know you. Mom cries over you, but I know what you are. You're a coward. Just stay away. I put the papers back in the box. I locked it. I sat there in the dark for I don't know how long, maybe an hour. And then the door to the house opened. It was Mom. She poked her head into the garage. She looked so small. She was wearing one of Dad's old fleece jackets because she's always cold now. She smiled at me, a sad, tired smile. Alex, honey, are you okay out here? Do you want some hot chocolate? I looked at her. This woman who loved him with every fiber of her being, who thought he was the most honest, hard-working man on earth, who grieves for him every single day. She has no idea she's bankrupt. She has no idea the house she's standing in is likely going to be foreclosed on in 6 months because the balloon payment on the hidden mortgage is due. She has no idea her husband had a second family he abandoned. I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, Mom, I'm fine. Just going through old memories." She nodded, wiped a tear from her eye and said, "He was a good man, Alex. He left us too soon." "Yeah," I said, "he was." So, here is where I am now. I went into forensic mode. I used my accounting skills. I dug into everything quietly. It's bad. It is catastrophic. The debt is immense. If I tell Mom, she loses everything. Not just the house, but the memory of him. It will destroy her. I mean that. She's fragile. She has a heart condition. The stress of the bankruptcy alone might kill her, but the heartbreak, the betrayal, that would finish the job. But if I don't tell her, I have to fix it. I have savings. I have my retirement fund. I have a small inheritance from my grandmother on Mom's side that I never touched. If I liquidate everything, literally everything I have, and if I sell my condo in the city and move back in with her, I can pay off the urgent debts. I can restructure the mortgage. I can make it look like just normal expenses. I can save the house. I can save her image of him. But I will be broke. I'm 32, and I will be back at 0. No, less than 0. I'll be living in my childhood bedroom, taking care of a house I technically paid for twice. And I have to decide what to do about the brother. I drove by his house yesterday. It's in the next town over, a rundown apartment complex. I saw him walking out to a beat-up truck. He looks just like Dad. It was like seeing a ghost. He looked hard, like life hasn't been kind to him. If I reach out, I blow the secret. If I give him money, I have to explain where it came from. So I'm sitting here writing this while my mom is asleep in the other room. The safe is in the trunk of my car. I'm going to drive to the river tomorrow and throw the notebook in. I've decided. I'm going to absorb the debt. I'm going to sell my place. I'm going to tell Mom that I just decided I wanted to be closer to home, that city life was burning me out. I'm going to lie to her every day for the rest of her life. I'm going to let her die thinking she was married to a saint, and I'm going to carry the hatred for my father alone. I look at his picture on the mantle, him smiling, holding a fish he caught, looking so happy, and I want to scream. I want to smash the glass. I hate him. I hate him so much it burns my throat. I hate him for the lies. I hate him for the brother I can't know. I hate him for making me an accomplice. But mostly, I hate him because even after all this, I still can't bring myself to break my mother's heart. He knew that. He knew I was the responsible one. He knew I would clean up the mess. That's why he left the notebook. He didn't burn it. He left it. He knew I'd find it. He counted on me saving her. He's still manipulating me from the grave. So, yeah, that's my confession. I'm a good son. I'm a loyal son. And because of that, I've lost my father twice. Once to death and once to the truth. And I've lost my future too. But tomorrow morning, I'll make coffee. I'll sit with Mom at the kitchen table. And when she starts telling a story about how wonderful Dad was, I'll smile and I'll nod and I'll say, I know, Mom, I know. Wow. Yeah, just take a second with that. It's the sacrifice, isn't it? That's what gets me. It's not just the money. Money comes and goes. You can make more money. But Alex is sacrificing his truth. He's sacrificing his right to grieve properly. Imagine walking around that house every day, seeing the pictures on the wall and seeing a monster, but having to pretend you see a hero because the person you love most in the world, his mom, needs that hero to exist. And the part about the dad knowing that he counted on me saving her, that is chilling. It adds this whole layer of almost weaponized incompetence to the dad. Like he knew he was drowning, so he just set it up so his son would have to be the lifeguard and the brother. That's the loose end that would keep me up at night. Knowing there is someone out there who shares your blood, who looks like your dad, who struggled while you thrived on stolen money. That guilt must be eating Alex alive, even though it's not his fault. It's not his fault at all. But guilt doesn't care about logic. I was reading the comments on the original thread before it got deleted, actually, which makes me think this is very, very real. And people were divided. Some people were saying, you have to tell her, she deserves the truth. And others were saying, no, let her have her peace. It makes you wonder, right? What is the value of truth? Is truth always good? Or is it sometimes better to live in a beautiful lie than a jagged reality? If I were Alex, man, I don't know. I'd like to think I'd be strong enough to do what he's doing, to take that bullet for my mom. But the resentment? I don't know where you put that anger. It has to go somewhere. If Alex is out there, somehow listening to this, I hope you find a way to let that anger out, man. Maybe not to your mom, but you gotta scream somewhere. You can't just hold that safe inside you forever. Actually, you know what? I was gonna wrap it up there, but the rain is really coming down now, and I'm honestly not ready to go to sleep yet. That last story kind of woke me up. It got my brain buzzing. And there is one more story I have saved here. I wasn't sure if I was going to read this one tonight because, to be honest, it's a little darker. Not in a horror movie way, but in a psychological way. It's about guilt. It's about the kind of mistake you make when you're young and stupid, and how it ripples out and destroys things you never meant to touch. So, if you're still with me, if you're still awake, top off your drink. Fix your pillow. Let's do one more. This one is titled, well, it doesn't really have a title, but if I had to name it, I'd call it The Arsonist. Here we go. The person who wrote this, let's call him Mark. He starts by saying, I am a lie. My whole life, everything I have, my career, my wife, my 2 beautiful daughters, the golden retriever sleeping on the rug, it's all built on a foundation of ash. I am 40 years old, I am a respected high school history teacher, and I am a criminal who got away with it. It happened in 2001. I was 17. I grew up in a town that was dying. You know the kind. Rust Belt, gray skies, Nothing to do but drive around in circles and get into trouble. I was a good kid, technically. Good grades, on the track team heading to a state university in the fall. But I hung out with a group that liked to push boundaries. Not bad kids, just bored. There was an old, abandoned textile mill on the edge of town. It was our spot. We'd go there to drink warm beer, smoke terrible weed, and just exist away from our parents. One night in late October, it was just me and my buddy, Chris. We were bored. We were stupid. We found some old aerosol cans in the back of a maintenance closet. We started making makeshift flamethrowers. You know, light the lighter, spray the can, watch the fireball. It was fun. Until it wasn't. I sprayed a burst of fire at a pile of what looked like damp rags, but they weren't damp with water. They were soaked in old industrial oil or solvent. The whoosh sound was deafening. The fire didn't just catch, it exploded. It crawled up the wall in seconds. I panicked. I mean, pure reptilian brain panic. I didn't try to stomp it out. I didn't look for an extinguisher. I just yelled at Chris, "Run!" And we ran. We sprinted out of that mill, through the woods, scratched up by branches, lungs burning, until we got to my car. We drove 3 towns over before we even spoke. By the time we got back, the sky over our town was orange. The mill was an inferno. The fire department from 3 different counties was there. It was massive. And here is where the sin begins. The next day, the rumors started. The police were looking for arson. They found footprints. They found the aerosol cans. But they also found a backpack. It wasn't mine. It wasn't Chris's. It belonged to a guy named Elias. Elias was the town ghost. He was 18, a dropout, homeless, living rough. He had a history of petty vandalism. He was the guy people crossed the street to avoid. He actually did sleep in the mill sometimes. When the police found his backpack near the origin of the fire, the narrative wrote itself. The troubled dropout, the pyromaniac. They picked him up 2 days later. I remember sitting at the dinner table when my dad said, "They got the guy who torched the mill. That Elias kid. Thank God no one was hurt." I froze. I was holding a fork full of peas and I couldn't move my arm. I looked at my dad, waiting for him to see it on my face, waiting for him to smell the smoke that I felt was permanently etched into my skin. But he just kept eating. I went to my room and called Chris. "We have to say something," I whispered. Chris was crying. No way. Mark, if we say something, our lives are over. No college, no scholarships, we go to jail. Elias is already screwed, man. He's got nothing to lose. We have everything. It was the most selfish, evil logic I have ever heard, and I agreed with it. We stayed silent. Elias had a public defender who was overworked and didn't care. The evidence was circumstantial, but Elias had no alibi. He claimed he lost his backpack days ago. He claimed he was sleeping under the bridge that night. But who believes the homeless kid with a record? He took a plea deal to avoid a longer sentence. He got 5 years for arson and reckless endangerment. 5 years. I went to college. I rushed a fraternity. I met my wife, Sarah, in a coffee shop during my junior year. I graduated with honors. I became a teacher. I teach kids about history. I teach them about integrity. Every time I look in the mirror, I expect to see a monster. But I just see a regular guy with a receding hairline. But the story doesn't end there. Last week, I was at the gas station. It's been 23 years. I'm filling up my SUV, thinking about grading papers. A beat-up landscaping truck pulls up to the pump next to me. The guy who gets out is rough. Leathery skin, deep lines around his eyes, a limp in his left leg. He's wearing a neon yellow vest covered in grass stains. It was Elias. I knew him instantly. He looked older than 41, but it was him. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I wanted to get in my car and speed away. I wanted to disappear, but the pump was still running. I was stuck. He looked over at me. He didn't smile. He just stared. And then he walked around the pump. He stood about 3 feet from me. I could smell the gasoline and the cut grass. "Mark," he said. His voice was gravel. I couldn't breathe. "Hey, do I know you?" The lie came out so automatically. It was muscle memory. He laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "Yeah, you know me. We went to high school. I'm Elias." "Oh," I said, feigning recognition. "Right, Elias. Wow, how are you?" He looked at my car. He looked at my wedding ring. He looked at the baby seat in the back. "I'm getting by," he said. "Did 18 months in juvie, then 4 years in state. Hard to get a job with a felony arson rap, but I mow lawns now." I felt like I was going to vomit. I reached for my wallet. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Hey, he put his hand up. "I don't want your money." He stepped closer. He lowered his voice. "I know it was you." The world stopped. The noise of the traffic, the wind, everything just cut out. "What?" I whispered. "I was there," Elias said. "I was sleeping on the second floor. I saw you and Chris with the cans. I saw you run. I saw you leave." I stared at him. Why didn't you tell them?" He shrugged, a heavy, tired shrug. "I did tell them. I told the cops. I told my lawyer. I said it was the track stars, the Golden Boys." He smirked. "They laughed at me, Mark. They said I was lying to save my own skin. They said boys like you don't burn down buildings. Boys like me do." He leaned in, his eyes drilling into mine. "So I went to prison for you. I sat in a cell for 5 years for you. And now I mow lawns for $10 an hour and you drive a Lexus." I was shaking. "Elias, Save it," he said. He spat on the ground near my shoe. "I don't want your apology. I just wanted you to know that I know, and I wanted to see if you looked happy." He looked me up and down one last time. "You look terrified," he said. "Good." He got back in his truck and drove away. I stood there at the pump for 20 minutes after he left. I went home. I hugged my wife so hard she asked me what was wrong. I checked the locks on the doors 3 times. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see him in that cell. I see the years stolen from him, the life he could have had. Maybe he wouldn't have been a doctor, but he wouldn't be a felon. He wouldn't have that limp. God knows what happened to him inside to give him that limp. I owe him everything. My entire existence is a theft. I stole his freedom to buy my comfort. I've been thinking about confessing, turning myself in, but the statute of limitations is up. Legally, I can't be charged. And even if I could, would I? Would I destroy my daughter's lives? Would I shame my wife? Would I lose my job, my pension, my house? No, I know I won't. I'm a coward. I was a coward at 17 and I'm a coward at 40, so I'm going to hire him. I found his landscaping company. It's just him. I'm going to send an anonymous cashier's check, a grant for small businesses, $10,000, maybe more. I'll keep doing it. It's not enough. It's blood money. It's hush money paid to a ghost who already knows the secret. but it's all I can do. I am a history teacher. I tell my students that history is written by the victors. I never tell them that sometimes the victors are just the ones who ran away the fastest. Okay, that hits different than the first one. The first story was about a guy inheriting a mess he didn't make. This guy, Mark, he made the mess. He lit the match. And the part that kills me is the system. Elias did tell the truth. He told them it was the Golden Boys. And nobody believed him because of how he looked and who his parents weren't. That is the most heartbreakingly realistic part of this whole thing. And that interaction at the gas station, you look terrified. Good. Chills. Literally, look. She holds up her arm to the camera. Goosebumps. I don't know how you live with that. I mean, Mark says he's paying him anonymously now, but is that for Elias? Or is that just Mark trying to buy his own sleep back? It makes you wonder how many people in positions of power, people we look up to, teachers, politicians, bosses, are sitting on a secret like this. How many good lives are built on someone else's tragedy? I feel so bad for Elias. I hope he takes that anonymous money and, I don't know, goes on a vacation, buys a new truck, something. What would you guys do? Be honest. If you were 17, terrified, and you knew speaking up would ruin your entire future, would you have stepped forward? Or would you have let the town bad boy take the fall? It's easy to say we'd be heroes, but fear is a powerful drug. All right, guys, I think that's it for me tonight. My brain is officially full. Thank you for sticking around for the double feature. I know these were long, but I feel like they needed to be told. And hey, real quick before I go, if you did enjoy this, or if it just gave you something to listen to while you folded laundry or stared out the window, please consider hitting that subscribe button and dropping a like. I don't talk about this much, but I actually quit my day job a few months ago to try and do this full time. It was, honestly, a terrifying decision. I love the idea of telling stories, but walking away from a steady paycheck is no joke. That being said, rent is very real, and this is my life now. So every sub, every like, every comment, it genuinely helps me keep the lights on and keeps me from having to crawl back to a cubicle. So if you do that, thank you. Seriously. It helps me out a lot more than you know. I'm gonna go stare at the ceiling for a while and try not to think about my own past mistakes. Sleep well, guys. Don't play with matches. And call your mom. Good night. I love you. Bye. All right. Let's move on to the next story. This one has a very different energy. It's a little quieter, a little more reflective, but just as real. It's about growing up, about expectations, and about the kind of feelings you don't always realize you're carrying until much later. Take a slow breath. There's no need to rush. If your mind starts to wander, that's okay. Just let the story play in the background and settle where it needs to. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. One of those confessions that feels sticky, you know? Like, even just saying the words out loud feels wrong. But I think it's important. It's about family, it's about jealousy, and it's about how we think we know what we want until we get it. So, if you're ready, just relax. Close your eyes if you want. Let me tell you something wild that happened, and something I'm still trying to figure out how to live with. Let's get into the story. Okay, so to understand why I did what I did, you have to understand the house I grew up in. I think a lot of people have this dynamic, but in my family, it was extreme. I have a younger brother. Let's call him Leo. And from the moment Leo was born, he was just the one. You know what I mean? He was the golden child. And I don't say that with hate, or at least I don't think I do anymore. It was just a fact. It was like gravity. Leo was beautiful. He was charming. He walked at 9 months. He was reading before preschool. He had this light. And me, I was just there. I was the rough draft. I was the prototype that had a few bugs, and Leo was the final release. My parents, they weren't abusive. They weren't bad people. They had eyes for him in a way they didn't for me. If I got a B on a test, it was good job, buddy. If Leo got an A-, it was a family emergency meeting about what went wrong. I remember this one specific Sunday. I must have been maybe 12. Leo was 10. We were at the dinner table. My dad was going on and on about Leo's piano recital, just raving about how the teacher said Leo had natural phrasing or whatever. And I'm sitting there eating my peas, and I just said, "Hey, I made the soccer team." And my mom, without even looking up from cutting her steak, just goes, "That's nice, honey. Leo, tell your father about the new piece you're learning." It was small stuff. Thousands of small cuts like that every single day for 18 years. You grow up feeling like a ghost in your own house. And the worst part is you can't even be mad at your brother because Leo was nice. He really was. He looked up to me. He wanted to play video games with me. He'd come into my room and ask my advice on clothes. He loved me, which made hating him feel so much worse. It made me feel like there was something rotten inside of me. By the time we hit high school, the gap was massive. I was a solid C student, kind of drifting, smoking weed behind the bleachers, listening to loud music, just trying to be anyone other than Leo's brother. Leo, meanwhile, was on the track to greatness. Ivy League schools were sending him letters when he was a sophomore. He was student body president. He was the varsity quarterback. He was perfect. And here's where things get complicated. I started to notice something. Because I was the screw up, nobody really paid attention to me. I was invisible. And when you're invisible, you see everything. I saw the way Leo's hands shook when he held his coffee in the morning before a big test. I saw the way he would stare at the wall for 20 minutes straight without blinking when our dad was lecturing him about legacy and potential. He was cracking. I knew it. I could smell it on him. The pressure was eating him alive. He didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a senator. He liked plants. He liked gardening. He liked working with wood. He was a quiet soul trapped in the life of a superstar. But I didn't help him. I didn't pull him aside and say, "Hey man, it's okay to slow down." I wanted him to fail. God, that sounds horrible to say. But it's the truth. I wanted him to trip. I wanted the golden child to fall on his face, so maybe just for 1 second, the spotlight would shift. Or maybe just so I wouldn't feel so alone in being a disappointment. Fast forward to Leo's senior year. This is the part I've never told anyone. Not my therapist, not my ex-girlfriend, nobody. It was college application season. The stress in the house was physical. You could feel it in the air, thick and heavy. My parents were obsessed. It was Harvard, Yale, Stanford, or bust. Leo was applying to this very specific, prestigious scholarship program. It was the kind of thing that, if you get it, your life is set. Full ride, guaranteed internships, the works. My dad was more excited about this than he was about his own job. One afternoon, I was home alone. I come back from my shift at this pizza place I was working at. I was 20 at the time, taking community college classes, living in the basement. A classic failure to launch situation. I walked past the family computer in the den. The screen was on. Leo had left his email open. I don't know why I sat down. Boredom? Curiosity? I started scrolling, and I saw it. An email from the scholarship committee. It had come in about an hour ago. The subject line was, "Interview scheduling. Action required." I opened it. It said they wanted to interview him that Friday, but, and this was the kicker, he had to confirm the slot by 5 p.m. that day, or they would move to the next candidate on the wait list. I looked at the clock. It was 3:45 p.m. Leo was at soccer practice. He wouldn't be home until 5:30. He didn't have a smartphone back then. This was a while ago when data plans were expensive and our parents were strict about phones. He didn't know the email was there. I sat there staring at the screen, the cursor blinking. All I had to do was nothing, just walk away. If I did nothing, he'd miss the deadline. He'd lose the scholarship. But then I thought about my dad. I thought about the dinner table. I thought about how they looked at him like he was the sun and me like I was a shadow. And a dark, ugly thought crept in. If he doesn't get this, maybe he'll stay home. Maybe he won't be so perfect. Maybe dad will finally yell at him. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to make sure. I moved the mouse. I clicked delete. Then I went into the trash folder and I clicked delete forever. I can still feel the plastic of the mouse under my hand. I can hear the click. It was so quiet. Just click. And his future was gone. I closed the browser. I went downstairs to the basement. I put on my headphones and I played video games. When Leo came home at 5:30, he rushed to the computer. I heard him typing. I heard the silence. Then I heard him running up to my parents' room. I didn't get it, he said. His voice was shaking. They haven't emailed me. I must not have made the cut. My dad said, check your spam folder. Check again. I did, Leo said. There's nothing. I sat in the basement listening to the floorboards creak above me, and I felt this cold, hard rock in my stomach. I thought I would feel triumphant. I thought I'd feel like I won, but I just felt sick. The fallout was worse than I expected. Leo didn't just lose the scholarship. It broke his confidence. He started second-guessing everything. He thought he wasn't good enough. He thought he had failed on his own merit. He got into other schools, sure, but the spark was gone. He went to a state university about 2 hours away, still a great school, but not the Ivy League dream my parents had mapped out. And that's when the spiral started. Without the structure of being the golden child, without that perfect path laid out for him, Leo didn't know who he was. He started partying. Hard. He stopped going to classes. I was watching this happen from the sidelines. I had moved out by then, got a slightly better job, was starting to get my own life together. But I'd get calls from my mom crying, saying Leo was failing his classes, saying Leo got caught with pills. Every time she called, I felt that click of the mouse. Click. I did this. I broke him. He dropped out his sophomore year. My dad basically disowned him for a while. It was ugly. Screaming matches in the driveway. Leo looking pale, skinny, eyes hollow. And the twisted part? As Leo fell, I started to rise. It's like the family only had room for one good son. Since Leo was the mess now, my parents started looking at me differently. I finished my degree. I got a corporate job in logistics. I started wearing suits. I cut my hair. Suddenly, at Sunday dinner, my dad was asking me about my week. My mom was bragging to her friends about my promotion. Oh, you know, she'd say on the phone, Leo is finding himself. Blech. My name, he's doing so well. He's a manager now. I got everything I ever wanted. I was the favorite. I was the reliable one. I was the one they were proud of. And every single compliment felt like ash in my mouth because I stole it. I stole it from my brother by sabotaging him when he was 17 years old. I tried to help him out of guilt. I sent him money when he was broke. I let him crash on my couch when he got kicked out of his apartment. I played the role of the benevolent, successful older brother. Don't worry, Leo, I'd say. I got you. And he would look at me with these big, sad eyes and say, thanks, man. You're the best. I don't know why I can't just get it together like you. That killed me. Hearing him say that, like you. If only he knew. So that was about 10 years ago. For a long time, I lived with this heavy, secret guilt. I felt like a fraud. I was climbing the corporate ladder, making 6 figures, driving a nice car, dating nice people. But I felt hollow. I hated my job. Honestly, I hated the pressure. I hated the expectations. I realized that being the golden child actually sucks. It's exhausting. You have to maintain this image constantly. You can never mess up. Meanwhile, Leo. Leo kind of disappeared for a bit. He moved out west. We texted, but we didn't talk much. He was working odd jobs, bartending, construction, landscaping. I worried about him constantly. I thought he was out there suffering, living in squalor because of me. About 6 months ago, I had a business trip near where he was living, up in the Pacific Northwest. I decided to drive out and see him. I hadn't seen him in 3 years. I was expecting the worst. I was expecting a rundown apartment, maybe seeing him look strung out or bitter. I pulled up to the address he sent me. It wasn't an apartment. It was a small house on a dirt road surrounded by trees. There was a garden in the front it was incredible. Flowers everywhere, vegetable beds, wild and chaotic, but beautiful. I got out of my rental car, this shiny black sedan that looked totally out of place, and Leo walked out to meet me. He looked different. He had a beard. He was wearing flannel and work boots covered in dust. He had gained some weight, but in a good way. He looked solid, and his eyes, they weren't hollow anymore. They were bright. "Hey," he yelled, giving me a massive bear hug. He smelled like sawdust and rain. He brought me inside. The house was small, hand-built in places. He introduced me to his wife. I didn't even know he was married. And they had a baby, a little girl crawling around on the floor. We sat on his back porch, drinking beers, watching the sun go down over the trees. It turns out, Leo runs a custom furniture business. He works with his hands all day. He makes tables, chairs, cabinets. He's not rich. They live paycheck to paycheck sometimes. But he loves it. He told me, "I wake up every morning and I listen to the birds, and I go to the workshop and I make something real, something that exists." I sat there in my expensive suit. I hadn't even bothered to change, and I looked at him. I said, "Leo, do you ever miss it? The path you were on? Med school, the big money, the prestige?" He laughed. He actually laughed. He took a sip of his beer and looked at me. "Man," he said, "honestly, no. I think about that sometimes. If I had gotten that scholarship, if I had gone to that Ivy League school, I think I would have killed myself." My heart stopped. He continued, "I was so miserable back then. I was doing it all for mom and dad. I didn't want any of it, falling apart, failing. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop. It forced me to find out what I actually liked. If I hadn't crashed and burned, I'd be stuck in some office right now, miserable, wearing a tie, probably divorced." He looked at me, and then he looked at my suit. And for a second, I saw a flash of pity in his eyes. "I'm lucky," he said. "I got out. I feel bad for the people who get stuck in the trap of always having to be successful." So, yeah, that's the story. I don't know if there's a moral there. Maybe it's that you should be careful what you wish for. Or maybe it's that we have no idea what success actually looks like until we're staring it in the face. I am still working the corporate job. I'm still the good son. But I've started looking at woodworking classes on the weekends. I bought a plant for my apartment. It's a start, I guess. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. It feels good to finally get that off my chest, even if it's just to strangers on the internet. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you have told him? Do you think I'm a monster, or did fate just do its thing? I read everything, so let me know. Take care of yourselves. Don't be too hard on your siblings, and don't be too hard on yourselves. Sleep well if you're heading to bed. I'll catch you in the next one. Make sure to leave a like on the video. I really put a lot of time into the videos, and I recently quitted my job to do these videos. It will mean a lot for me. I love you,